They say grouse dogs are born, not made, but I know better. They can be made. I saw it happen. Ginger was a liver and white pointer that my Uncle Floyd got as payment on a bad debt. He liked the looks of the little bird dog. Ginger wagged her ratty tail and grinned at him, giving every indication of infatuation, or maybe simple-mindedness. The debtor no doubt laughed all the way home. Ginger was small for a pointer, wiry with yellow eyes that, if you looked into them, seemed a bit off-center, as if her brain was whirling faster than the planet. That's the way she hunted too, as if she were equipped with JATO tanks. She was the perfect dog until Uncle Floyd let her out of the kennel. Then there was a blur in the sharp October air, and suddenly no dog for a couple of hours. There was no doubt she was hunting. The questions were, for whom, and on what planet? Uncle Floyd was a grouse hunter. He'd had a methodical Labrador who did double duty, working both grouse and waterfowl, but he had lusted for a pointing dog ever since he began reading the hallowed prose of Burton Spiller. It seemed dramatically correct that a pointer, the same breed used by Spiller, should have fallen into his lap. But Ginger was no Spiller dog. She entered a grouse covert as if she'd been popping amphetamines. She was a close cousin to a comet of unknown origin and unknown path. She had the erratic trajectory of an unrifled bullet. Uncle Floyd spent the summer working with her on obedience commands, hand signals and all-around good manners. He tried a stimulation collar, read that shock collar, that he had borrowed from his hunting buddy Harvey Morella. But Harvey, a jackleg electronics buff, had tinkered with the control unit so he could use the collar also as a garage door opener and somehow had managed to turn the transmitter into a receiver. Uncle Floyd flipped the latch on the kennel door and jumped back as Ginger blasted through, wearing the electronic collar. She headed down a Forest Service road as if pursued by devils, her crazy eyes fixed on things only she could see. "Gotcha now, you crazy mutt," Uncle Floyd growled grimly. He shouted, "Whoa!" and pressed the red button. A blue flame arced around his hand, and a numbing jolt of electricity knocked him on his butt. He howled and threw the control into the brush. Ginger sped around a bend and wasn't seen for 2 hours. She returned with her tongue hanging, scratched and repentant, the fire dead in her eyes for that day. Uncle Floyd gave up on the Marbell approach, reach out and touch someone, and tried to slow Ginger somehow. "Or to cut off a couple them damn legs," he grumbled. He tried a drag rope. She ran around a bend in the trail, trailing the heavy rope, then spent 20 minutes hiding in the brush until she'd chewed through it. She came back 2 hours later with the stub of the rope hanging from her collar. Uncle Floyd never did find the remaining 20 feet of check cord. So he wired a chain to her collar. She ran sideways around the bend and immediately snagged the chain in a fence and began yelping so pitifully that Uncle Floyd removed the chain without a word and stuffed it in his game vest. Ginger's tail signaled a brief thanks, then she vanished around the next bend for 2 hours. Uncle Floyd was desperate. He read an old hunting book which told how poachers would fly a hawk-shaped kite to freeze game birds on the ground so they could be netted. Maybe he could do double duty, make the dog tow a drag chute, so to speak, which also would terrify grouse into holding tight until he walked in on them. The idea was so brilliant that he was blind to its many flaws. Uncle Floyd was as single-minded as his dog. He asked for kites at Bamberger's Hardware, and the clerk said, "For your grandkids?" "My dog," Uncle Floyd said absently, his mind on his task. He looked up to find the clerk staring at him, as if wondering whether to call the sheriff. "Just get me a dang kite," Uncle Floyd said. "You want bunnies on it or butterflies?" the clerk asked. Uncle Floyd snarled like a dog guarding a food dish, and the clerk hastened away and returned with a rolled-up kite. Uncle Floyd borrowed a dog harness and fitted it to Ginger, and he, Ginger, and the kite headed to the woods. The idea was a disaster. Ginger pranced and danced as Uncle Floyd tied the kite to the harness, shouting, "Hold still, damn it!" He let her go, and she streaked for the bend in the trail. The kite rose valiantly behind her. The string snagged on a branch and snapped, and the fragile kite plummeted to earth and became a twisted mass of paper and splinters. Ginger reappeared 2 hours later. The clerk didn't even ask. "Butterflies," he said. "Hope the dog likes them." Uncle Floyd fastened the kite with 20-pound braided fishing line. "See you snap that, damn your bony butt," he snarled. Ginger shot off like a bottle rocket, the kite rising majestically behind her. until it hit a tree. Ginger reappeared 2 hours later, trailing 10 yards of braided fishing line. Uncle Floyd threw his hat on the ground, and Ginger obligingly retrieved it to hand. "I hate you," he told her. He decided his only hope was to build his own kite, a creation so stout it could not be wrecked if fastened to a bull buffalo in a rut. Then he would hunt her in open country where the kite could not be waylaid by trees, maybe on the prairies atop the bluffs overlooking Lake Superior, where there still were a few sharp-tailed grouse. Uncle Floyd worked on the kite in his garage while Ginger sat and watched him with those crazy yellow eyes, her tail happily drawing patterns on the dusty floor. "We'll see how fast you run with this hanging over you," he told her, smiling grimly. The kite was massive, probably 5 feet across, 6 feet long, built of ironwood cross braces and canvas. Uncle Floyd attached a coil of 100-pound test trotline cord. He gave Ginger an evil leer. We piled in Uncle Floyd's rusty pickup and headed for the prairie above the lake. Ginger slurped my ear, then leaned lovingly against Uncle Floyd. It was a windy day. The breeze near the huge lake was stiff, blowing off the bluffs. Uncle Floyd wrestled with the huge kite as the wind jerked it in his hands. "Tie that cord on her harness," he ordered. I threw a quick hitch through the D-ring of the harness, and we let go simultaneously. Ginger, spying a vast plain of undulating grass, took off as if scalded. The kite, caught by the wind, rose like the angel of death. The line burned a sharp groove in Uncle Floyd's hand, and with a cry of pain, he let go. The remaining line sizzled through the grass as the kite soared. Then the slack vanished, and there was an audible thrum, as if the red gods of hunting had plucked a cosmic guitar. The kite jerked the speeding Ginger a dozen feet in the air. We saw her expression of utter dismay. She yelped in fear before the kite, still rising, carried her higher and higher toward the lake. "You come back here," Uncle Floyd roared. I don't know why he hoped she would obey when she couldn't, when she'd never obeyed when she could. The dog became a tiny speck in the sky. Upper air currents lifted her farther over the water. Uncle Floyd stood with his arms dangling, his expression anguished. "That's my dog," he cried. "That was my dog." He turned to me, his face stricken. "I'll never see that derned old dog again." He turned and looked toward the lake. "That's the best dog I ever had," he said brokenly. "I was mean to her, and I shouldn't have been." Love takes many forms, sometimes not understood by outsiders. Silently, we got in his pickup and drove back to Birch Lake. Uncle Floyd didn't say much the next 2 days, except once he did say to himself, "I should have just lived with it." A Minnesota farmer called the next day. "I got your dog here," he said. "I found her hanging in a tree like a damn apple. Craziest thing I ever seen." Ginger bolted into Uncle Floyd's lap the instant he opened the pickup door, and the farmer and I watched with embarrassment as the grizzled old grouse hunter and the bony dog slobbered over each other. Uncle Floyd and I went hunting that very afternoon. Ginger coursed the coverts like a shadow, pointing a half-dozen birds, never failing to check back every couple of minutes. She was the perfect grouse dog, steady and methodical and always in touch. She was a spiller dog. Perhaps she sensed a dark presence hovering just above the trees, waiting to carry her off. Like I said, you can make a grouse dog, but it's not easy. Republished with permission from The Making of a Grouse Dog by Joel M. Vance, 1999. The Grouse Point Almanac, Winter 1999. 1999 by Joel M. Vance.